So you may have noticed that there was kind of a gap between week 2 of weaning off of antidepressants and where we are now, which is week 9, I think. Um, Basically, if I had filmed that time, it would have just been me crying, sleeping, crying some more, and working pretty much. Um, I have still been working the entire time from home, just my usual 3 shifts a week, which honestly has been a blessing in disguise because it's given me, those couple of hours a day where I am focusing on something other than how awful I was feeling. But basically, what happened was I fell down a fucking dark hole. Um, yeah, and the thing was, it like the physical symptoms of tapering, I could manage, like the brain zaps and like when you move your head and your eyes don't really follow as quickly as your head moves, the like fogginess and all that kind of stuff. I was doing okay with that. What I ended up not being able to cope with was becoming unable to function. As a parent, I kind of have a responsibility to my daughter to be able to do things like drive her to daycare and, not spend the entire day just crying in front of her. And so there came a point where I had to say, this is not working the way that it's going, and I can't continue like this. Also, I posted about on my Instagram how suicidal thoughts were really prominent for me. That kind of came along with the non-functioning. The less I was able to function, the more I felt like giving up, because I had gone from being someone who had a part-time job in a busy shopping center and was traveling and was, socializing a lot, to suddenly being someone who was afraid to get out of bed in the morning, someone who was kind of getting afraid to open the front door again, someone who was very afraid to get back in the car. And it made me feel like there was no point in going on, and I couldn't escape that feeling. And once that feeling became, the most prominent feeling in my head, I was like, it's time to pull the pin on this, which is so frustrating because I really badly wanted to be able to, be a success story with coming off antidepressants. Uh, I was really convinced that it was gonna go that way as well. Like, I knew that it was gonna be, uncomfortable, and I knew that it was gonna be messy, but I didn't. I really didn't anticipate that I would go back to really struggling with agoraphobia. Um, Mosquito. Oh. So that has been the hardest thing for me in terms of making videos, and I guess part of it is that I don't want to let people down, and I try and be quite positive on this channel, and I try and, oh my god, where the fuck are all these mosquitoes coming from? Losing it. Uh, I try to be really positive, and I try to be really, there's a lot of me that's grateful for anxiety and grateful for the things that I've been through. And, I didn't want to come on here and then moan and say, like, I'm struggling, my agoraphobia is coming back, because I felt like someone watching my video might feel depressed by that. That sounds really conceited that I think I would have that much of an effect on someone, but you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to go from being this really happy, upbeat, positive person on this channel to then being someone who, um, I guess didn't know if I wanted to live anymore. And I didn't want to share that because I didn't want that to scare someone else, or to, make them feel like there was no point. I don't know. And also, I guess a lot of it was pride as well. I like, I've said so many times that I don't think it's possible to go backwards with agoraphobia. Um, I mean, you guys have said to me on Instagram that I'm not back at square one again. And in a way, I'm not, because back then I didn't know what agoraphobia was. I didn't know how the stress response worked, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't understand it, whereas now I do. So it isn't the same as it was the first time, but it hurts just as fucking much, to be totally honest with you. It even maybe hurts a little bit more because part of me is so angry that I've already done this, like, um, you know, I guess in one part of my brain, I'm like, well, at least you know how to beat this. Like, you've done it before, you can do it again. You know that you just have to do exposure sessions and you have to build up and repetition and habit and yada yada yada, like all that stuff. I know that because I've done it and I know that it works. But I also, the other part of me was like, but why do I have to do it for a second time? Like, that is so unfair. And I know that's really whiny, and I'm honestly just sharing that in the spirit of like full, disclosure and transparency, that I feel part of me is really angry and part of me feels very victimized. I feel personally victimized by agoraphobia. Because I felt like I was really close to I guess what it was I had worked so hard. So hard. Some of you have been following me from the beginning, and you know that driving like 2 kilometers up the road used to be a huge thing for me, and I worked my way from that to being able to travel overseas and be the hiking up a freaking mountain in Tasmania where like there was no real toilets or like escape plan, as you will. So I had worked so fucking hard to get to that place, and just to have a sense of normalcy, like just to be able to be someone who works again. That was a huge thing for me. It took me 3 or 4 years maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but a couple of years at least to be able to get back to work, and to be able to do things like going out to dinner with friends and family, and to then now have that threatened is like makes me furious. Um, yeah. Anyway, to get back to the topic of the antidepressants, basically what I ended up doing was around week 7, I'm gonna say, I made the decision to pull the pin. I said I can no longer go on like this. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for me or my daughter or my family. So I spoke to my doctor and I went back up to my full dose, which is 50 milligrams of Luvox. And then it was kind of like, okay, so now things are going to go back to normal, right? And then, fuck. Nothing went back to normal. Things, if anything, felt like they got worse. And it wasn't just that I was readjusting back to the high dose. It was that I was dealing with all these feelings of feeling like a failure and feeling like, the things I wanted, like having another child medication free, was, a dream that I had to say goodbye to. And it was a lot all at once. So it's been, I'm going to say about 2.5 weeks now, maybe. Not good at maths. Also don't have any kind of real functioning brain at the moment, so I'm not entirely sure, but it's been probably about 2 weeks since I've been back on a full dose. And I also I went to see my doctor in the interim of that 2 weeks, and he put me up higher. So I went up to 75 milligrams because I was a mess. I was an absolute straight up mess. Usually for me, when I can be feeling the biggest distress possible for me, and it can be kind of hard to tell from the outside, especially like if I go out to the shops or something like that. I always make an effort to talk to the person at the checkout and to try and socialize, and I've always pretty much managed to be able to do that, even if I'm internally dying, I can still look at another human being and hold a conversation, and I might be like sweating a little bit and sounding a little bit crazy, but I'm still, you know, managing to have that interaction. Whereas it got to a stage where I couldn't do that. I was sitting in the doctor's office and I was just sobbing, and there's all these people around me in the waiting room. I don't know if they were looking at me or not because I wasn't making eye contact with them, but I couldn't hold myself together at all. Yeah, emotional wreck. Hey, Charles. So yeah, he bumped me back up to 75 milligrams to try and, I guess, get like some kind of serotonin boost or something. And that has, it has helped because I've cried a lot less in the last 3 days than I have in the last 2 months, which has been nice. But I am still, it's just the agoraphobia. I am just struggling. Yesterday I did an exposure session. I knew that I was like, you just have to go out and do the shit that scares you. You know this, do it. And so I did it, and then today I woke up and I was like, yay, I had a good day yesterday. And I went to the Oval with Anthony to kick the footy around, which is just around the corner of my house, literally. And first off, I could barely hold myself together in the car on the 1 minute drive there. I was having a total panic meltdown. And then when we were at the Oval, I was exhausted. I couldn't, I just couldn't make words, thoughts, nothing. And we were gonna go out and get a bite to eat somewhere. And I just had said to him, like, I'm so tired, I have to come home. So I slept for nearly 10 hours last night, and then got up, was awake for 2 hours, and then came home. And as soon as I got home, I fell asleep again for another 2 hours. So I forgot how totally exhausting it is to do exposure sessions, buddy. And yeah, so that's the main thing that I'm struggling with at the moment, is that I'm trying to be really accepting of where I am right now, and that right now I kind of need to scale back, and I need to rest, and I need to allow my body and brain some time to just settle. But then I'm also, you know, balancing on that knife edge of trying not to keep myself at home too much, trying to still expose myself, because I know what a slippery slope it can be. Once you start avoiding things and saying no to things, it becomes really easy to totally isolate yourself and then be too afraid to do anything at all. And so I'm trying to balance that at the moment, and it's really hard. And on the days like yesterday where I was feeling really good and I felt like myself again in a lot of ways. I was still incredibly anxious, but I was laughing and I was happy, and Anthony was like, I'm so happy to have you back, you know, like it's been a long 2 months for us, relationship wise, of you know, him just having to really look after me, which is a new thing for us. I guess we haven't really dealt with that. He's never dealt with my agoraphobia, because when I met him I was very functioning. So where was I going with that story? Oh yeah, so Anthony was like, it's, you know, it's so great to have you back, we were so happy. And then to have today be so different, and for me to, like, it seems like, you know, that 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Like today I've literally just slept, and the only reason I haven't cried is because I'm trying to cling so hard to yesterday, because I'm like, I know that I can have good days. Like, don't let the fact that today was bad make you lose faith altogether. Yeah. So there's that. I also want to point out that in terms of the tapering, I know there's a couple of people that have messaged me with opinions on how they think my tapering was right or wrong or whatever, but basically what I did was I only came down to halfway. I didn't come completely off my antidepressants at any point. I had only gotten down to half a dose, and I hadn't gone any further. So that was over the course of 6 to 7 weeks. And yeah, so technically I wasn't off antidepressants at any point. I was still taking a super, super low dose. And even with that, I fell off the fucking deep end. So yeah, it's been a big lesson for me in terms of acceptance and knowing that, you guys know, if you've watched my medication videos, I've always been a little bit on the fence with medication. Like, I know that it has saved my life before in the past, but I also, I know why some people feel against taking it. I know that it can have side effects. I know that, I know there's a whole negative side as well. So I am myself torn into with it, but now I am also coming to this understanding that if this is what I need to do in order to function, in order to, just in order to function, if I need to continue taking this pill in order to function, then that is what I'm gonna do. In an ideal world, I would not, but I don't actually really have that luxury of choice at this point in time. I may in the future, I don't know, but I know for now, probably a pandemic wasn't a good time to test that theory. I mean, in my head, I was like, this is the perfect time because I don't actually have to go anywhere. I was working from home. We weren't in Melbourne. We weren't allowed to go further than 5 kilometers away. We were only allowed out for exercise for 1 hour a day. So literally I wasn't doing anything or going anywhere. So I was like, this is great. There's no pressure, if I feel like shit one day, it's not going to affect my, me going to work or me going out to someone's birthday party or whatever. So yeah, I was like, this will be the perfect time. But I also completely forgot to consider the mental health implications of this pandemic. And back when we were in like June, I think when I first made a video regarding COVID and my thoughts on it, I wasn't too badly affected by it back then. Now I feel like an asshole for that opinion. But in Melbourne in particular, we've had it pretty fucking tough, to be honest, because I think we went into lockdown in March. We came out of lockdown for 2 weeks in like the end of June, maybe. I can't quite remember exactly when that was. And then we went back into lockdown until like 3 days ago. We're now in the very end of October. So it feels like it's been an entire year on house arrest, pretty much. And we've had some of the strictest lockdown laws in Australia. So it really, really fucked with my mental health. And I didn't anticipate that it would, because I was at such a functioning level. Now I know. That isn't a fun thing to be proven wrong about. But yeah, basically, I just wanted to update with what's happening. I'm kind of going to be starting from the beginning again in terms of exposures. So I guess, I don't know if we're calling this an agoraphobia relapse or what. The hardest thing for me right now in terms of agoraphobia is I'm really struggling to be in the car with anyone else or be out with anyone else. But that was what it was like for me the first time, I know, it's more common for agoraphobics to have a safe person that they go out with, but for me that's never been the case, and I always feel more comfortable on my own. So yeah, I'm just gonna be starting from the beginning again and doing exposures and trying to challenge myself, but also not challenge myself so much that I completely fall apart. But yeah, that's it. I really hope that everyone is doing better than I am and is doing well. I hope that wherever you are in the world, it's not as intense as it has been the last, year. and I am really thankful to all of you who commented on my Instagram posts and who have messaged me and who have offered support and encouragement, because it really, I have been in one of the darkest places I've been in my life, probably. So, oh God, I just noticed a huge spider on my curtain. Man, coming into summer in Australia it's like there's just bugs everywhere. On that note, I'm going to stop this video and burn this room down.